Omega shields Alpha King at the collapsing bridge as the shattered stones reveal her hidden gift. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Lila Foster stood on the edge of the crumbling bridge, her heart pounding in her chest as the ground beneath her feet trembled. The wind howled around her, carrying with it the scent of rain and danger. The bridge was old, its wooden beams weakened by years of neglect, and now, under the weight of the storm, it was beginning to break apart. Her eyes darted across the vast chasm beneath her. It was a sheer drop that would spell certain death for anyone who fell. And there, on the other side of the bridge, stood Alpha King Ethan Blackwood, his dark, imposing figure silhouetted against the stormy sky. He was trapped. The way forward was blocked by the broken bridge, and behind him, a cliff loomed. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by an unmistakable tension as he realized his only escape route was gone. Ethan had always been a man of strength and power, the ruler of the Northern Territories, but even he couldn't fight nature. He knew the bridge wouldn't hold much longer. Lila's heart clenched in her chest as she watched the Alpha King struggle. She had never been close to him after all, she was just an Omega, a lowly member of his kingdom, but something in her stirred. The way his shoulders tensed, the helplessness in his eyes, it was like she could feel it, too. The wind screamed around her, but all she could hear was the pounding of her heart. Without thinking, Lila stepped forward, her legs moving faster than her mind could process. The bridge groaned as she neared the edge, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Ethan's eyes widened when he saw her approach. "Lila, stop," he shouted, but his voice was lost to the wind. Lila reached him just as the first stone beneath her feet cracked and fell into the abyss below. Without hesitating, she grabbed his arm, pulling him back just as another beam gave way. "We need to get out of here," she urged, her voice barely audible. Ethan didn't move at first, staring at her in disbelief. She, an Omega, was offering to save him, the Alpha King. For a moment, it seemed like time itself had frozen. But then, with a fierce determination, he nodded. Together, they moved, carefully inching their way to a safer part of the bridge. The storm raged around them, but Lila's grip on his arm never faltered. She would not let go. As the bridge began to collapse behind them, a flash of light erupted from beneath Lila's feet, catching them both off guard. Ethan turned to her, his eyes wide with surprise, but Lila didn't notice. She was focused on something far more powerful than the storm. The stones beneath her feet had begun to glow, revealing a hidden energy, a power she had never known she possessed. The glow intensified, casting a warm, golden light across the bridge. "What is this?" Ethan whispered, awe in his voice. Lila didn't have the answer. All she knew was that something inside her had awakened, something ancient, something destined. The power surged within her, and suddenly, the ground beneath their feet seemed solid again. The bridge, which had been moments from collapsing, held firm for just a little longer, long enough for them to reach the other side. Ethan grabbed her arm once more, pulling her into his protective embrace as they made it to safety. He began, but the words seemed to fail him. Lila turned to face him, her breath ragged from the exertion. "I don't know what just happened," she said, her voice trembling. "But I couldn't just leave you." Ethan's gaze softened, and for the first time, Lila saw a flicker of something beyond the king's cold exterior. "You saved me," he murmured, his voice low with gratitude. Lila shook her head, still trying to process what had just occurred. "I don't even know how I did it," she admitted. "But I couldn't watch you die." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes locking with hers. "You've done more than save me, Lila. You've shown me something I never expected to see." As the storm continued to rage above them, something in the air shifted, something undeniable. In that moment, Lila knew her life had changed forever. She had discovered her hidden gift, and with it, her destiny was now tied to the Alpha King in ways she couldn't yet understand. I don't know how I did it, Lila said quietly, her voice trembling as she stood on the edge of the newly solidified bridge, her body still pulsing with the unfamiliar energy she had summoned. Her hands were shaking as she tried to steady herself, her heart racing. Ethan, still holding her close, gave her a look of wonder that she couldn't quite decipher. He was a man who had seen power in all its forms, strength, wealth, command, but what she had just done left him speechless. The storm continued to howl around them, but the air between them had changed. It felt different now, thicker with a connection neither of them could deny. Ethan took a step back, his eyes studying her with intensity. That was no accident, he said, his voice low. I've never seen anything like that before. You have power, Lila. A gift. She shook her head, trying to process the situation. But I'm just an Omega, she murmured, looking down at her hands, still glowing faintly. I'm not meant to be powerful. Ethan's gaze softened, and he stepped closer again, his presence imposing yet oddly comforting. You are meant for something much more than you realize, he said gently. That power, it's not just an accident. It's a part of you. I can feel it. Lila looked up at him, her breath caught in her throat. There was something in his eyes now, something she had never seen before, something warm, something vulnerable. Ethan, the Alpha King, the ruler of all, was looking at her as though she were the most important person in the world. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her nerves. I don't understand, she admitted. How could I have this gift? I'm just an outcast. Ethan's expression turned serious, his voice barely a whisper. Because you were chosen. The gift you have, it's not just about power, it's about purpose. You were never just an Omega. You were always meant for something greater. Lila's heart fluttered in her chest. The words felt like a weight, both comforting and terrifying. She had never thought of herself as anything but weak, anything but less than the others. But in that moment, as she stood beside Ethan, she felt something shift within her. Maybe she wasn't meant to hide in the shadows forever. Maybe, just maybe, she was more than the world had told her she was. Ethan stepped back, his eyes scanning the surroundings as the last remnants of the storm began to fade. We need to get to safety, he said, his tone practical, but his hand remained on her shoulder. The bridge is unstable. We'll find shelter, and we'll figure out what this power means. But you're not alone anymore, Lila. I'll help you. Lila nodded, still trying to wrap her mind around the gravity of the situation. She had always felt small, invisible, but now, as they made their way away from the bridge, she felt a new sense of purpose growing inside her. She was walking beside the Alpha King, the most powerful man in the kingdom, and somehow, in this strange twist of fate, she was no longer the weak, forgotten Omega. She was someone. As they made their way through the dense forest toward a hidden path, Lila could feel Ethan's gaze on her. She dared a glance at him, her heart pounding. His face was unreadable, but she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers clenched at his sides. There was more to him than the cold, distant king she had once known. She had seen it in his eyes when he looked at her, something human, something real. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in her life, Lila felt like she was walking towards something that could change everything. She wasn't just the Omega anymore. She was something else. And she would discover what that meant, even if it scared her. I still don't understand it, Lila said softly, her voice trailing off as she walked beside Ethan, the Alpha King. The cool evening air swirled around them, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth, but the question that had been plaguing her all day remained. How could I have done that? How could I have this power? Ethan didn't respond immediately, his gaze fixed ahead as they made their way deeper into the forest. The dense trees seemed to close in around them, their shadows stretching long in the fading light. Lila had never been this far from her village. And the unfamiliarity of the wild, untamed land only heightened the sense of uncertainty that had settled in her chest. Ethan's expression was unreadable, but she could feel the weight of his presence beside her, his every step purposeful. He was the Alpha King, a ruler of immense power, yet he had been just as stunned by what had happened on the bridge as she had. The power inside you, he finally said, his voice low, almost as though he were speaking to himself, it's not just a gift. It's part of who you are. The question is not how, but why. Lila glanced at him, her brows furrowed in confusion. Why, she repeated. Why me? Why an Omega like me? Ethan turned to face her then, his silver gray eyes intense, studying her with a look that made Lila's breath catch. Because fate has chosen you, Lila. You were always meant for more than this. You're connected to something older, something powerful. And now, I believe the time has come for you to embrace it. Lila's heart skipped a beat. The words felt like a heavy mantle settling over her shoulders. She had always been the one who didn't fit in, the one who had been cast aside by society. The Omega, the one with no voice, no power. And now, Ethan, the king, was telling her that she was something more than that. Her mind raced, but the silence between them seemed to stretch on forever. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. But I'm not like them, Ethan. I can't be. I'm not strong, not like an alpha. I'm just an Omega, Ethan finished for her, his tone gentle but firm. You've always been more than that, Lila. You've been living in a world that never saw your worth. But I see it now. The words were a balm to her wounded soul, but they also felt like an enormous responsibility. How could she live up to such expectations? How could she accept a role she didn't even understand? The path ahead felt uncertain, and every step she took with Ethan only seemed to lead her deeper into a world she wasn't sure she was ready for. They continued walking, the path winding through the forest, until they came upon a small clearing where a modest cabin sat nestled between towering pines. It was simple, but the light spilling from the windows was warm and inviting. Ethan stopped in front of the door, turning to face her. We'll rest here for the night, he said, his voice softening. Tomorrow, we'll begin to figure out what this power means. But tonight, you're safe. Safe. The word felt strange to Lila. She hadn't felt truly safe in years, not since her family had fallen from grace, not since she had been cast aside by her pack. But here, with Ethan, in this moment, she did feel something she hadn't felt before, a glimmer of hope. She nodded slowly, her heart still heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Ethan's expression softened, and for the first time, she saw the faintest trace of a smile. Rest now, Lila. Tomorrow is another day. And together, we'll face whatever comes next. As they entered the cabin, Lila felt a strange mix of fear and anticipation. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure, her life was changing. And Ethan, the Alpha King, would be by her side as they both discovered just how far their destinies would take them. I woke up to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the cabin's small windows, casting a warm light across the room. The fire had long since burned down to a soft glow, and the sounds of the forest outside were calm, peaceful. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe that everything could be normal again. That I could go back to the life I had known, before everything had changed. But as I opened my eyes fully, I knew that wasn't possible anymore. Ethan was sitting by the window, his back to me, looking out into the trees. He seemed deep in thought, his expression unreadable. The faint scar on his cheek caught the light, a reminder of the battles he had fought, the struggles he had endured. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him, despite the power he held. The Alpha King, a man who had everything yet carried so much weight on his shoulders. You're awake, Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts, low and calm. I didn't know what to say to him, what words could bridge the distance between us. Instead, I simply nodded. He turned to face me, his silver gray eyes studying me carefully. I know this is a lot to take in, he said, his voice gentler than I had expected. I've been in your position, Lila. Not knowing what's real, what's meant for you, what's just fate. But I need you to trust me. We need to understand this power of yours. It's not just a coincidence. I looked down at my hands, still feeling the faint pulse of energy from the night before. The power that had surged through me on the bridge, the light that had saved us. I don't understand it, I admitted, my voice shaky. How can I have this power? I'm not like you, Ethan. I'm just me. A broken Omega. Ethan's gaze softened, and he stepped closer, as though he could sense my unease. You're not broken, Lila, he said, his voice firm. You've been made to feel that way, by others, by a world that doesn't understand your worth. But you are strong. And your strength, your gift, is what will change everything. Not just for you, but for all of us. His words left me breathless. I had always believed that my worth was tied to what I could do for others, how I could serve them, how I could remain unseen. But here, standing before the most powerful man in the kingdom, I felt something I had never felt before, a sense of purpose. Ethan's eyes never left mine, and for a moment, the weight of his words settled into my chest. You are more than just an Omega, he said softly. You are destined to be something greater. I know it in my bones. And I will help you discover it. The promise in his voice was unwavering, and though part of me wanted to pull away, to hide from this reality that was unfolding, I couldn't. Not anymore. What do we do now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing with determination. We start training. We learn everything there is to know about your power. And we prepare for whatever comes next. I felt a shiver run down my spine at the weight of his words. Whatever comes next. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it would change everything. I had never imagined that my life could lead me here, to this point. Standing beside the Alpha King, preparing for something greater than anything I could have ever dreamed. But in that moment, I understood. There was no going back. I wasn't just an Omega anymore. I was something more. And with Ethan by my side, I would face whatever came next. Together. I spent the next few days in a haze of uncertainty, training under Ethan's watchful eye. He was patient, but firm, pushing me to understand the power that had been awakened within me. We practiced in the quiet of the forest, where the tall trees offered us shelter from the world outside. With every lesson, I felt the strength of the power inside me growing, but so was the weight of the responsibility that came with it. I had always been the quiet one, the invisible Omega, but now, I was something else, something more. Ethan had explained to me that my gift wasn't just about healing or light. It was deeper, something tied to the very essence of who I was. You have the ability to draw power from the world around you, he had said during one of our lessons, his voice steady. The trees, the earth, the air, it's all connected. And when you learn to tap into that, you'll be unstoppable. But as much as I tried, the idea of controlling such raw energy felt overwhelming. I was no warrior, no alpha. I had no desire to fight. I only wanted to live a quiet life, far away from the chaos of power struggles and royal expectations. But that life felt as though it were slipping further and further away with each passing day. You're ready, Ethan said one morning, his eyes sharp and focused as he studied me. The next step is to face what's waiting for us. I frowned, feeling a knot of anxiety twist in my stomach. What do you mean? Ethan stood tall, his expression unreadable as always, but there was something in his gaze that made me take a step back. The kingdom is in turmoil, he said quietly, his voice a low rumble. There are forces at play that want to see us fall. And we can't afford to wait any longer. You're not just my ally, Lila. You're part of this fight now. I stared at him, unsure of what to say. The weight of his words settled on me like a heavy cloak. The Alpha King was a man of immense power, yet he was still vulnerable. And now, I was entangled in his world, his fight. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered, my heart heavy with doubt. Ethan's gaze softened for a moment, and he stepped closer to me. You've already done more than anyone could ask of you, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You saved me. You saved us. This power you have, it's not just a burden, Lila. It's a gift. And together, we will learn to control it. Together, we will protect the kingdom. His words were a comfort, but they also filled me with a deep, gnawing fear. I had never wanted power. I had never asked for this. But now that it was part of me, I couldn't turn away. I had a responsibility, not just to Ethan, but to the kingdom, to the people who relied on us. The path ahead was unclear, and the dangers we would face seemed insurmountable. But there was no going back. I had to find the strength within myself to stand beside Ethan, to embrace the power I had been given and use it to protect the ones I cared about. What do we do now? I asked, my voice shaking. Ethan's eyes locked with mine, a spark of determination in his gaze. Now, we prepare. The next challenge will test us both. But I have faith in you, Lila. I always have. His confidence, his unwavering belief in me, made something shift inside. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just an Omega. I wasn't just a bystander. I was part of something much larger. And no matter how scared I was, no matter how unsure, I knew that I couldn't back down now. Ethan's hand reached out to me, offering me a steadying grip. I took it without hesitation, feeling the weight of his promise, of his faith in me. Together, we would face whatever came next. I woke up the next morning to the sound of birds singing outside the cabin, the light of dawn filtering softly through the trees. The air was crisp and fresh, a stark contrast to the heaviness I had felt in the days before. The storm had passed, but my thoughts remained clouded. The weight of Ethan's words, his promises, still hung in the air like a thick fog. It was hard to believe that everything had changed in such a short time. One moment, I was a forgotten Omega with no place in the world. And now, I was bound to the Alpha King, a man who carried not only the burden of his crown but the hopes of an entire kingdom. The fire from the previous night still smoldered in the hearth, casting a soft glow in the otherwise dim room. Ethan sat by the fire, his broad frame silhouetted against the dancing flames. He looked as calm as ever, but I knew better than to believe that. There was a storm in him, too. His eyes flicked to me as I sat up, and for a brief moment, his gaze softened. "You're awake," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. I nodded, still unsure of what to say. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began, my voice steady, though the doubt lingered in my chest. "About the power inside me. About what I'm supposed to do with it." Ethan's expression remained neutral, but his eyes sharpened, focusing entirely on me. "You're not alone in this, Lila," he said, his voice low and reassuring. "You've already shown that you're capable of more than you realize. This power, it's a part of you now. And I'll be here to help you learn how to control it." His words should have brought me comfort, but they only made the weight of the responsibility heavier. "But I don't want this," I whispered, the confession slipping out before I could stop it. "I don't want to fight. I don't want to be part of some grand destiny." Ethan's eyes softened, and he took a step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "I understand," he said quietly. "But sometimes, destiny doesn't give us a choice. And what you have inside you, it's not just for fighting. It's for protecting. For healing. For making a difference." His words were like a lifeline, but the fear still gripped me. What if I failed? What if I wasn't enough? "I'm scared," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan's expression hardened with resolve. "It's okay to be scared," he said firmly. "But you're not alone in this, Lila. We'll face it together. You don't have to do it all by yourself." His reassurance, though comforting, didn't ease the knot in my stomach. The power that had awakened in me was something I had never asked for, and yet, I couldn't deny its presence. It was there, pulsing beneath my skin, waiting to be understood. I had no idea what it would mean for me, for Ethan, for the kingdom. But I knew one thing, I couldn't run from it. Ethan extended his hand to me, his gesture silent but full of meaning. I hesitated for only a moment before I reached out and took it. His grip was firm, steady, and in that moment, I felt something shift within me. Maybe this was what I had been waiting for all along. A chance to be something more than I had ever imagined. A chance to make a difference. Together, we would face whatever came next, and I would learn to embrace the power I had been given. Ethan's eyes locked with mine, and for the first time since this all began, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Whatever came next, we would face it together. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I had always believed. I woke up to the smell of fresh herbs and the soft rustling of the wind outside the cabin. The fire had burned low in the hearth, casting a warm glow across the room. Ethan was already up, standing by the window, his back to me as he gazed out at the forest beyond. There was a stillness in the air, a sense of anticipation. Today felt different. I could feel the weight of what was to come pressing down on me. The power inside me had been growing, and with it, a deep, unsettling fear. I had no idea what to do with it, how to control it, or how to use it for good. The idea of standing beside Ethan and facing whatever challenges lay ahead seemed impossible. "You're up early," I said softly, trying to steady my voice as I sat up in bed. Ethan turned, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted, his voice calm, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Too much on my mind. I didn't need to ask what he was thinking. We both knew what was coming. "I've been thinking about you," he continued. His eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. "About this power you have. We need to understand it, Lila. We need to figure out how to use it to protect the kingdom." I nodded, though the fear in my chest only grew. The idea of harnessing the power inside me felt like trying to control a storm. How could I, an Omega, someone who had always been weak in the eyes of the world, wield such strength? "I don't know if I can do this," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not like you, Ethan. I don't know what I'm doing." Ethan's expression softened, and he crossed the room to sit beside me on the bed. "You're not alone in this," he said, his voice low and reassuring. "I won't let you face it alone. We'll figure this out, together." I felt a small flicker of hope at his words. His belief in me, despite everything, made me feel like I might not be as powerless as I had always believed. "You've already done more than you think," Ethan added, his eyes gentle but filled with determination. "You saved me. You saved us. You didn't back down, even when the odds were against you." I glanced down at my hands, still trembling slightly from the power that had surged through me on the bridge. "I don't know how I did it," I murmured. "It just happened." Ethan's hand reached out, gently taking mine. "That's the first step, Lila," he said softly. "You didn't hesitate. You acted on instinct. And now, we just need to learn how to control it." His words were a lifeline, a promise that together, we would face whatever came next. "I'll help you," he continued, his grip on my hand steady. "We'll train. We'll practice, and soon, you'll understand how to harness this power. And when the time comes, you'll be ready." I looked into his eyes, seeing the trust and faith he had in me. For the first time, I believed it. I could do this. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice stronger than it had been before. Ethan stood, pulling me gently to my feet. "Now, we start," he said. "We train. We prepare. And when the time comes, we'll fight for this kingdom. Together." The words resonated deep within me, filling me with a sense of purpose I had never known. I wasn't just the forgotten Omega anymore. I was part of something greater. And with Ethan by my side, I would face whatever challenge lay ahead. Together, we would fight. Together, we would protect the kingdom. I spent the following days in a whirlwind of training. Every morning, Ethan would push me harder, teaching me to control the power that I could still barely comprehend. We practiced in the clearing near the cabin, where the wind whispered through the trees and the soft earth beneath our feet grounded me. Ethan's guidance was steady, but I could see the weight of his expectations growing, just as mine were. I had never imagined I would find myself here learning to wield power like some ancient sorceress or warrior, but the power inside me was undeniable. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, the winds of change threatening to carry me away, but somehow, I had to find the strength to stand firm. "Focus," Ethan's voice cut through my thoughts, steady but commanding. I looked up at him, meeting his silver-gray eyes. They were filled with determination. "You're doing fine, but you need to trust yourself. This power, Lila, it's part of you. You've had it all along." His words echoed in my mind as I tried to harness the energy flowing inside me. It was like trying to hold a wild river in the palm of my hand, but I was learning. Slowly, I could feel the warmth of it, the energy coursing through me, settling into a rhythm. It was still overwhelming, but with each passing day, I began to feel more at ease with it. Again, Ethan said, his voice gentle but firm. I know you can do it. I nodded, taking a deep breath. I focused on the earth beneath me, on the trees around us, drawing from the energy that surrounded me. This time, the power responded. A soft golden light enveloped my hands, and I felt a deep sense of connection to everything around me. That's it, Ethan said, his tone warmer now, as he stepped closer. You're getting it. You just have to remember that the power isn't something to fear. It's a part of you, and when you learn to embrace it, you can do anything. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the power spread through me. For the first time, I didn't feel scared. I felt whole. As if I had found a piece of myself that had been missing for so long. The days blurred together, each one filled with lessons and moments of growth. But as much as I was learning, a part of me still couldn't shake the fear that lingered in the back of my mind. What if I failed? What if I couldn't control it when it really mattered? Those thoughts haunted me at night when I lay awake in the silence of the cabin. Ethan, however, remained unwavering in his belief in me. It was a comfort and a burden at the same time. I knew he was counting on me, and I didn't want to let him down. One evening, after a particularly intense training session, Ethan sat beside me by the fire. His usual stern expression had softened, and for a moment, I saw the man behind the crown, the burdened ruler who carried the weight of an entire kingdom on his shoulders. You're doing better than I ever thought possible, he said, his voice quiet. I know this is difficult, Lila. But I see something in you that no one else does. You're more than just an Omega. You're a force in your own right. His words took me by surprise, and I looked at him, trying to understand what he meant. You really believe that? I asked, my voice uncertain. Ethan met my gaze, his expression serious. I've seen a lot of things in my life, Lila. I've seen warriors, kings, and queens rise to power, but I've never seen anyone like you. You're not just a product of destiny, you've chosen this. You've chosen to fight. And that's what makes you powerful. The warmth of his words settled into my chest, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. I wasn't alone in this. I had Ethan by my side, and together, we would face whatever was coming. I didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, I realized that I was ready to face it. Ready to fight, not just for myself, but for everything that mattered. And with Ethan's belief in me, I knew I wasn't as weak as I had once thought. The power inside me wasn't just something I had to control, it was a part of who I was, and with it, I could change the world. I stood on the edge of the cliff, looking out over the vast expanse of the kingdom below. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the land, and for the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of peace. The weight of everything I had learned, everything I had been thrust into, seemed to fade for a moment. Ethan was beside me, his presence a constant reminder that I was no longer alone in this fight. We had come a long way together, but the challenges ahead still loomed large. You've come so far, Ethan said, his voice low and steady. I never imagined you would be able to do this so quickly. But I knew you had it in you. His words filled me with a mixture of pride and uncertainty. I had trained, pushed myself further than I ever thought possible, and yet, I still felt like I was standing at the beginning of something much bigger. I'm not sure I'm ready, I confessed, my voice barely a whisper. There's so much I don't know. What if I can't control it? What if I make a mistake? Ethan turned to me, his expression softening. He placed a hand on my shoulder, his touch grounding me. We all make mistakes, he said. Even the strongest among us. The key is not in avoiding mistakes, it's in learning from them. And you're already learning, Lila. You're stronger than you realize. His words, though reassuring, didn't fully ease the fear I felt. The power inside me was still so new, so wild. I had no idea what it could do if I lost control. What if I can't protect anyone? I asked, my voice trembling. What if I fail? Ethan's gaze softened even more, and for a moment, it seemed as if the weight of his crown lifted just a little. You will never be alone in this, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You've already proven that you will do whatever it takes to protect those you care about. And that's what makes you powerful. The power you have is not just about strength. It's about your heart. And that's why you'll never fail. I looked up at him, searching his face for any trace of doubt. But there was none. His belief in me was unwavering, and in that moment, I felt a spark of hope ignite within me. Maybe, just maybe, I could do this. Together, we could protect the kingdom. We have to prepare, Ethan continued, his tone shifting back to the seriousness that I had come to expect from him. There are forces at work that we don't fully understand. But we'll face them, together. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words sink in. The road ahead would not be easy, and there would be moments of doubt and fear. But I wasn't alone. And for the first time, I felt like I had a purpose, a reason to fight. I turned my gaze back to the horizon, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the kingdom we were both sworn to protect. Let's do it, I said, my voice steady now, filled with the resolve I hadn't known I possessed. Together. Ethan gave me a small, approving smile, his eyes gleaming with pride. And in that moment, I knew that whatever came next, we would face it head-on. We would fight for the kingdom, for each other, and for the future we both hoped to build. The sun dipped below the horizon, and with it, the last of the day's light. But a new light was rising within me, one that would guide me through the darkness ahead.